Hi, welcome to today's show. I'm Ivory, and this is Roz. We are the Sedona Soul Sisters. And today we're going to be talking about the steps to Ascension. Before we get into that, we'd like to say hello to our listeners in Round Rock, Texas. There's a whole bunch of you there. I don't know if one person told one person, and now all of a sudden there's a big group of you, but thank you so much for being with us. If there's any topics you'd like us to discuss, we are looking for suggestions, so let us know. Today we're talking about these steps to Ascension, and this is something, when I had my first spiritual teacher, which was probably, I think, 92, she was talking about this, like how the 12 different dimensions and how to know when you are accessing each one. And just to kind of clarify this, dimensions just organize the different planes of existence based on their vibration rate. So each of those dimensions follows a certain set of laws and principles that are particular to its frequency. So humans are said to be multidimensional beings of light with a visible, dense body whose consciousness has been projected into. However, they are aware of just a part of their consciousness and have the potentiality of accessing the first 5 dimensions. Most of us are comfortable in the 3rd dimension level of awareness. However, access to the 4th dimension time, known as astral plane or time, is possible with spiritual applications such as meditation, reflection, and asking the assistance of your angels and guides. There are some, like those who are the indigo, rainbow, crystal consciousness, can access higher levels. And those beings have been coming in since, I think, the 1960s. And it seems like each successive generation comes in a little higher already on that scale. Those are those 7-year-olds who seem like 70-year-old gurus. So let's talk about these 12 dimensions of consciousness. The first dimension is the point of focus in the awareness. What resonates in that frequency is the seed of creation that unfolds its information and form. We all are born with this. We have access to that. Second dimension is the realm of information. Plants and the lower animal kingdom resonate in the 2nd dimension. Beings with consciousness acquired by their DNA information and genetic code. The basic requirements of food and survival are present in the 2nd frequency level. So, Roz, why don't you talk a little bit about 3rd dimension? What is that?
Well, it's just where we are now, kind of. There's a level of, we have a very powerful subconscious, which humans tend to not use very much. So I think to be maximized in your use of the 3rd dimension, you have to have not just your conscious mind tuned in, but you have to be allowing input from your subconscious mind. And that's your intuitive ability. And we all have it, but we don't all utilize it. And some of us, sadly, are very afraid of it. So,
yes,
it's more an aspect of realizing that there is more than what you just see right here. Where we as humans have a tendency to just get very comfortable in our little spot, and we don't want to venture out into our subconscious mind and see what it's bringing. So I think, it seems like in the last 5 to 10 years, we've had tremendous expansion of our abilities and our gifts, and people realizing, hey, wow, I can tune in on this other stuff and it's safe. I'm okay.
So, yeah, I've actually had people who tell me they are in a church that doesn't believe in anything other than praying to Jesus or praying to God. And then they'll say, but I want to connect with my angels. I want to have the guidance of my angels. And to me, that just makes my heart glow, because I know that person's having an awakening. Nothing wrong with being where we are, but there's signs that we're going somewhere else. And one of the things, if you're interested in past lives, if you get stuck, if you stay in the 3rd dimension where the majority of people are, You can't remember your past lives. So, anybody who comes into this lifetime remembering their past lives is above the third dimension. It doesn't make them better, doesn't make somebody worse. It's not a contest. Fourth dimension, some people call that the astral plane. And it's the dimension of the subconscious mind where one can tap into advanced psychic abilities. So if you have advanced psychic abilities, if you are a medium, I just think there's all kinds of psychic and spiritual gifts out there that start to manifest once you are operating in the fourth dimension. And I just want to be real clear. It's not like if you're in the third dimension and you go to the fourth dimension, you don't wake up the next day and go, oh, everything looks different. My whole world is wonderful. No, things stay pretty much the same, but you see things differently and you start experiencing more things. It's not like a sci-fi movie. Not any I've seen anyway.
It's an awareness.
Pardon?
It's an awareness.
Awareness. Yes, it's an awareness. So suddenly you're aware of things you weren't before. Suddenly your mind is a little more open to things it wasn't open to. Maybe you're experiencing some things you didn't experience before. A friend of mine just has a new podcast, and one of her episodes is about why can't we be mystic minded? And her point's very well given, because it's just being open to the possibility that things exist that you're not yet aware of. And so someone tells you something they've experienced, you're open to hearing about it rather than going into a place of judgment. And if you start to experience something, you just go with it instead of trying to shut it down because it's new and different and might scare you because it's new and different. It doesn't mean it's bad. We'll talk a little bit about fifth dimension. We're going to talk a lot about it a little later because it's a big thing in our world right now. But this is where the possibility of multiple timelines and the constant of being in the same, all of them at once, the dimension of the unconscious mind, the awareness of spirit starts to appear at this level. So if you never saw spirit before or heard them or felt them, and now you are moving into the fifth dimension. Remembering our higher selves is often felt in this dimension. Your higher self is another way of saying your soul, your spirit, the being you really are, not the shell you're in this human lifetime. Sixth dimension is the realm of soul, the dimension of light. In this dimension, you surrender to the gentle flow of the spirit's evolution to fit all of the soul's possibilities. I think it's really that sixth dimension is a big one about expanding your mind, being open, like we said, being mystic-minded. Seventh dimension is the realm of infinity, the dimension where the soul tunes in to evolve itself. It's where you start living, thinking, reacting in a way that you're aware, I'm doing everything I can to help my soul grow. I'm not thinking from a human point of view, but from my higher self's point of view. Eighth dimension, the realm of eternity, full cosmic consciousness with all its aspects. It's the universe itself. Ninth dimension is the realm of God, the dimension of God consciousness. 10th dimension is the realm of the multiverse. It's the dimension beyond the universe and the consciousness that created it. 11th dimension is the realm of the omniverse, dimension of consciousness from all the possible multiverses. So can you see, like, your mind is required to expand and expand, and you can see why it would take many lifetimes to achieve this. That's a lot of expansion. The last one, the 12th dimension, is the realm of love. It's the dimension of the vibrations of love that permeates through everything and unites all of us, focus and awareness, information. Being at this level means you have reached the source consciousness or love consciousness, not to be mistaken with romantic love you can feel for a human for another human, but it can be a catalyst to tune into this frequency of vibration. So we are beings that have access to all of these dimensions of consciousness at any time. However, most of us, by a vast majority of us, is not yet awoken to these higher levels. Most of our consciousness is not yet aligned to these dimensions, but we're getting there. So let's talk about the fifth dimension, because as Roz stated, it's happening more and more that people are making the shift. We are collectively, as a planet of people, shifting to the fifth dimension. Some people are already above the fifth dimension. We'll talk about that a little bit. But this brings about a new level of consciousness for all of us. And I think it actually, Roz, makes it easier for more people to move into the fifth dimension when more people are already in the fifth dimension. You know, it will create a different frequency on the earth.
Well, and I think, energetically, we have a tendency to just be in our own little world about these ascension processes and these different levels on the other side. And I can remember, in meditational processes when I was younger, and I've never done traditional meditation. I mean, this is just me getting into my, world of energy. But I can remember being able to step out beyond the veil, beyond the other side, and you can clearly see the different levels on that other side. And I think this is a really important thing for people to realize and try to embrace. A lot of people feel that ascension, depending on their religious beliefs, that ascension is as described in the biblical sense. I think, expanding our consciousness and our mind to go beyond just that definition is very powerful, because truly, we are a spiritual being really before we're anything else. But we've unfortunately, we've kind of created a world where that's not true. In different countries, different cultures, it's all approached differently. So it does seem like people are beginning to realize, hey, there are other beings out there. There are other dimensional fields with different frequencies going on. So it's a wonderful, expansive time right now.
It is. It's exciting. And I know we've kind of talked about this before. I'm going to bring it up again. All the turmoil going on in the world right now is a reflection of this big shift we're making. The people who were already on a spiritual path, who were working on themselves spiritually, it's easier for them to go into the fifth dimension. But the people who were not are feeling it, and they don't know what they're feeling, and it's frightening. And people often react with fright, with fear. So
it's time for a lot of people.
It is. And I also, a long time ago, that same spiritual teacher, the first one, said, there will come a time when we will see many people choosing to cross, because the frequency will be so high as we shift into fifth dimension that they won't be able to tolerate it. And they know they can't tolerate it, and they don't want to, and they choose to go. And I'm seeing that happen now. It seems like every few days, somebody else I know has crossed, or some close person has lost somebody. It's just happening so fast. So again, if you're moving into the fifth dimension, it doesn't mean one day you wake up and your life is perfect. Nothing's perfect. It doesn't take away the challenges you have in your life now. On the contrary, you use your soul's lessons as the entry points to higher consciousness. So we've often talked about how our challenges, our darkest moments in life, our dark nights of the soul, have led to major shifts forward for us. I see it for myself. I've heard clients talk about it. And so we're using that. Like, what did I learn from it? Where can I gain from that, rather than let that be your whole story? The fifth dimension is like our reality, but it functions on a higher frequency. It's not about being in a different place physically yet, but embodying a new level of frequency within yourself. So your body, mind, and emotions vibrate at a higher velocity. Your being can accommodate more light. So people are going to start gravitating towards you for many reasons, mostly because they want your light. They want to feel that light. And hopefully you're sharing your light. And in the fifth dimension, you're still you, but you become lighter. Along the way, you clear out denser energies of your system, and your thinking can completely shift. It will completely shift. But you can't stop living your normal life. You still have to make a living. You got to pay your bills. You got to take care of the kids. You need to feed yourself, all those things of modern life. But in fact, like being fully human, like living your human life, will help you shift to the fifth dimension faster. And the truth is, the Earth's been shifting into the fifth dimension for some time now. So we humans, we have a free will choice to transition with Gaia to the fifth dimension or remain fully in 3D. And some of the ways people remain fully in 3D is by really focusing on money, possessions, sex, those, kind of more base human needs. So addictions is a sign of that. So those are some places for you to start, but there's no judgment in making a free choice. People have a right to choose what they want to choose, and we don't have a right to judge it because we don't know their soul's journey. We don't know what they're here to learn in this lifetime. What we think they should do may be directly opposite from what their angels are guiding them to do. What some may perceive as wrong or backward from our human consciousness might not be seen in that light by the higher self at all. So people are doing things for a reason. They're being guided to do things. Let's tend to our own journey unless people come to us and ask us for help. That's the safest. So here, let's talk about some signs you are aligning with the fifth dimension. You've heard about this, Roz, probably, the restructuring of the energy body? Maybe not.
I have heard some things about that. Interesting, talking to many people, how they are experiencing the changes in their physical presence as a result of their energetic and soul presence.
It can be about that, and it also can be about clearing stress from your system, addressing the stress and trauma you've carried since childhood, finally seeing it and working on it, and just starting to release old patterns. That's something, that's big with me, is like people's romantic patterns, but the truth is we have patterns in all of our actions, all of the ways we live our life. And when we start seeing them and we can see how it's harmful to our soul, then we can make changes. But it's really hard to do that if you don't let yourself align with fifth dimension. So probably the biggest one you're going to notice is your vibration. You become more sensitive to vibrations, to other people's. You can feel their true nature. You can read their true feelings, and you're going to prefer staying in environments with lighter energy. I am finding myself, and it hurts me, to be almost intolerable physically, emotionally, and spiritually to be around low frequency people. I get sick. I don't like it. And so I think that's one of the reasons, as we move on our spiritual path and we make progress, we may start being more isolative. We may not be as social as we used to be because there's not a whole lot of people that frequency feels good to us, comfortable. I don't know, Roz, you've talked about that a lot. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, I'm in total agreement with that. I feel like we have to be perceptive enough to realize that our physical body is highly impacted by the presence of wherever we are, and experiencing the people there and their motivations and their desires and their interests. This is the interesting thing that I find with a lot of people, especially with what we've experienced over the last few years. There were people that were in job situations that they never really even processed how difficult it was to be around the people that they had to deal with on a daily basis, not just in their office environment or their work environment, but if you have a job where you're dealing with the public, it's it's a tremendous amount of stress if it's impacting your vibrational frequency. So recognizing that and acknowledging it to yourself. I mean, I've talked to so many people in the last few years, I'm sure you have too, where they weren't forced to be in that situation anymore. And they realized, oh my gosh, I just feel so much better when I'm not in my office with all these other people.
Well, look at how many times in the decades past people would say they're coming to us because they need help with a toxic work environment. When
Yeah.
you're around people, you have no control and there's a mixed bag. And I've worked in places where it was tremendously heavy on toxic energy, and it was just absolutely brutal to work there. So I understand anybody waking up to that and going, it's not worth it. And there's something I read, I like this term, Roz, energy hygiene becomes your priority. You protect your energy. You give yourself rest when you need it. You cut back your work schedule if you can, when you need to. Maybe for me, it's like reducing some of the types of work I do that are more exhausting to me energetically. But it is a lot about passing up on some family get-togethers or social events and just staying alone or being out in nature alone. The next thing is relationships. You experience more soul-based connections with people, and you meet more people who are part of your soul family, and there's that instant recognition. Your relationships become more equal and more honest as you feel you don't want to hide your true self anymore. It's not a true friendship if you can't be yourself, if you have to hide part of yourself. And next is your inner truth. It becomes harder to act out of alignment with your inner truth. As your consciousness expands, sometimes maybe more than you wish, you're aware of what your heart is guiding you to do. And sometimes it's real tough. It isn't what you want to do, but it's what you know you need to do. Next is inner peace, another sign that you're going into the fifth dimension. You experience more inner peace. You know how that's happened for me, like how I feel it is when COVID hit. And there was a lot of stress and tension, and I just felt really calm about a lot of it. And I thought I should really be kind of freaked out about this, but I'm not. And I felt just calm, and I couldn't explain it. But I reread all of this, and I'm like, I think that's what that was. As the emotional body slowly heals old wounds, it becomes more stable, and your moods go with that, become more stable. Next is mutual help. You realize you can't save everyone. And I'm going to tell my dad again, I'm not trying to save the world, just the people who come to me that are open to help. You learn to respect the decisions of others, even though you may feel like you have the tools to help them. If they don't ask you for help, if they are telling you, mind your own business, let me make my own decisions, let them make their own decisions. Again, we don't know what their soul journey is. We don't know why they're here, why they chose this lifetime, this situation. Maybe that choice that seems so horrendous to you is imperative for their soul growth. And that's hard. It's hard when it's somebody you love.
It's very difficult.
It is.
I think the thing that I've heard a lot recently are the number of people who have experienced this conflict with their children.
Yeah, I'm having that right now.
Their children grow up. They're, developing their own soul, kind of like not just the journey, but the process of creating your energy around you. And they choose energy that to us is very difficult.
Yes.
And it's very heartbreaking for people to realize that here is this child that they love beyond anything on this earth, And they couldn't be more spiritually and morally and everything at opposite ends of the spectrum. And that is really a process to try and learn to love and accept and let them express their own free will.
We
It's
have
so
to.
hard.
We have to respect free will.
It's so hard.
But it's one of the building blocks of the universe. You know, that's what we're here for, to use our free will. So the only help that works is one where energy is exchanged equally. If the other person doesn't want your help, it doesn't serve them, and it only drains you and makes them resentful. Next is trusting others, learning to trust others and their decisions. It's really the same thing. I trust you're making the decisions that are best for you, even if I can't see it or I don't agree with it.
Exactly. And we're certainly, as a culture here in our country, experiencing a huge shift with that right now. Gigantic
Yes.
change in direction.
And I like the suggestion that instead of being worried about them or letting yourself really get heartsick about it, send them love and hold a space for them and trust their own timing. You know, the truth is you raise your children and then they go off on their own and you're not responsible for their thoughts, decisions after that. They're going to make up their own mind. It isn't a reflection on you and how you raise them. It's their journey. So love them, hold space in your heart for them. And you can pray, you can ask their angels to watch over them and help them find their way to where they're meant to be. And maybe they're already on it. We can't assume we know more than their higher self does. Next is your own energy. As you're transitioning to the fifth dimension, you experience a lot of energy cleansing, and that's in your lower and higher selves. So when you do that, you're able to think clearly, you'll feel more lighter. And honestly, I think that's where we come into the people who are going through the clearings. They're doing things like changing their diet. They're starting to do things that raise their frequency, you know, expressing themselves creatively, getting out in nature. They're really being careful about what they watch, read, talk about, think about. All of that is energetic clearing. If you're thinking of that, if you're consciously doing that, you know you are shifting into fifth dimension. This is one that gave me a little giggle. Stop being meek. When you shift into the fifth dimension, you carry within yourself powerful light, and it's time for you to stop dimming your light and instead realize how you can use it positively in your life. So stop being meek and insecure and just step into your inner power. And I have to tell you, in angel readings recently, that kind of message is coming through a lot about it's time to step into your power, realize the power you carry within yourself. And almost always it's people that seem real meek. I have to say, I hadn't really thought about it, but when I was looking at this, it sure brought that to mind. The next is shine with ease. Your energy light, your inner light, your true essence. And at this point, you start feeling like you need to carry others with you. You have the light within you, but sometimes it feels like you have to shine. And that can come through as deciding to do your spiritual work, write a book, do a podcast, whatever it is that you want to get the word out. And you feel just such light within you and such a push to share it. And this will change as you embody more of your soul's energy. You'll want to shine because when you do, you're in your true frequency. So there won't be so much of a must, but rather you'll experience joy while allowing yourself to be your true light self. I like this one, being an observer. A very profound sign of shifting into fifth dimension is becoming an observer of your life. This will create a distance between you and your circumstances, but it allows your higher consciousness to come in and guide you to better choices. Being an observer is also one of the greatest ways how not to get stuck in 3D, because the goal is ultimately to shift beyond that too. I noticed I was like born an observer. Like this has been a normal thing for me. And it's made me feel a little bit not of this world, because I rarely feel like I'm part of a group. I feel like I'm observing the group. And I don't want to do that. Like, I don't like that, but my angel's like, it's part of your path. It's part of who you are. I'm like, ugh. So I don't know. if that starts happening to you, your angels may tell you something similar. They're just like, deal with it. This is what you're here for. Next is adjusting yourself. You realize the importance of being proactive and working on your energy before it gets out of balance. So for me, I know how many sessions I can do in a day, how many hours of work I can do in a day of my spiritual work before I start to feel drained. And then it affects me for my next day's work. So you have to know your limits, not just with work, but everything. If you know that certain people are draining, I have a thing of I limit my time around them and I have an escape hatch. The escape hatch might be that I say, oh my gosh, you know what? I really got to go. I love you all. Give you hugs. And I go. The truth is I've reached my maximum and I can feel it affecting my energy negatively and I need to go. And so you're like, why are you hanging around negative people at all? Sometimes the lower frequency people are people you love, people in your family. And some people, want to continue the relationship because you love them, even if they're not of the same frequency. So that's why. 13 is strengthen your energy body. You need to heal, restructure, and strengthen your body. You'll become more mindful of the energy you allow into your environment. It results in many changes in your relationships and possibly even in your work. So this is the point where people start limiting time, eliminating relationships, changing jobs, changing careers. Roz and I have a lot of people come to us out of the corporate world who are like, I've been doing this, or like, listen, they're in the medical profession. I've been doing this for decades and I don't have a passion for it anymore. I feel like I need to do something. I want to do something to help people, but I want it to be something more meaningful, something more spiritual. The words can change, but we see this a lot. The next is integration and embodiment. You feel attracted to embodying the new fifth dimension energy in your life. You feel called to walk your talk. So you're not going to be one of those people who are out there talking about how things should be and then living a different way. There will be no separation between your human and spiritual self. Doesn't that sound amazing? Student of life. I think Roz is a student of life.
Possibly so.
You're less interested in reading spiritual books and more interested in deriving the lessons from your own experience. This kind of reminds me of my dating experience in the Sedona area. What I told Roz was a lot of these guys would say, oh, I'm very spiritual. And then I find out what they think is spiritual is reading books, going to workshops, but they don't put it into practice in their daily life. And that's where true spiritual growth comes from. It's great to get the knowledge, but you got to put it into practice in your life on a regular basis. Your higher self guides you to honor and listen to your own inner voice over what anyone else is saying. I have people react sometimes really strangely when I say, I appreciate your advice, but my angels are telling me something different, and I'm always going to listen to them first. Angels are celestial beings. They're God's creation, sent here to help us, to guide us. They know things there's no human on this earth is going to know is happening behind the scenes or coming down the line. They only have your best and highest good. There's no possible hidden intentions there. So why wouldn't you, listen to your angels first? Those of you who hear the voice of God, well, you are blessed indeed. Listen to God. Multidimensional self. As you move further, you'll work more consciously with your multidimensional self. This allows you to become a conscious creator of your reality and speak your words into existence. So what does that mean? Manifestation. We've talked about that. Roz and I have had some crazy experiences. What's the first one that pops into your head when I say manifesting things, Roz?
Well, I can remember as a child even thinking about things that I wanted to see in terms of my living situation. I never liked living in the city. It just doesn't work for my energy. So I can always remember when I was a kid even, thinking I have to be in the country. I have to be out and away from all of this hustle bustle and craziness and everything. And I've certainly manifested that in many different ways. I've also experienced manifesting what I don't want because I concentrated on that. And that's something to really, for those who are seeking to enhance their ability to manifest, always make sure that you're manifesting what you want. So put your energy and your concentration and your desire into things that you know will enhance your life, as opposed to thinking about negative things that aren't working out, that aren't going well. And this is something I really have to work on all the time, because I wasn't raised in an environment where we concentrated on what we wanted to happen. I was raised in okay, go do it environment, the 50s.
Yeah, it's been a journey for me, pretty much a solo journey up for a very long time, because I didn't have anybody in my family, friends who were knowledgeable about this. But that's why I started seeking spiritual teachers. And it wasn't hard to find them. And it was just like I was sort of drawn to each one of them by my angels. The other thing
when you're guided like that, though, it's just amazing.
It is. We have people come to us and they'll say, I saw your sign and I just knew I had to go in there. Or I saw your picture online and I knew I had to see you, but I didn't know why. Happens a lot.
Yeah.
Next is your inner power. We talked about that. Authentic power has nothing to do with ego. Your power originates in your higher self, and you will feel more connected to it. You're less likely to give away your power about certain ideas, theories, or people. You'll realize you already have everything within yourself. Next is higher consciousness. It's your way of thinking. You might not even recognize your old self anymore. I always say, I stop at certain points and say, look back on an experience, and then I consciously forgive myself, because I'm not the person I was at 18. I'm not the person I was at 40. I'm not even the person I was at 55. So, we have to forgive ourselves and realize we were different people at that time. We didn't know as much. We weren't aware as much. Acceptance. You're rooted in the present moment. You see your life from a higher, more expanded consciousness, and it helps you accept yourself and others. So, as the fifth dimension signs discussed today, they could happen gradually. Usually they'd be gradually based on your soul's chosen program of ascension. And at this point, you may resonate with some of the signs and not the others. And just because the fact that you were attracted to this podcast and listening to this episode, you are transitioning to the fifth dimension, even if you're in the early stages of it. So I've noticed there's some people who are going even higher. I could not find, I was trying to find the sheet my old spiritual teacher had given me that's like each level. And I know the ninth dimension was one where you feel love for all mankind. I have that. I have not shifted fully into ninth dimension. I'm not saying that, but I have that. And I was trying to find that sheet somewhere. I may have to track her down and get it, because I can't find it. I know she's still teaching. Somebody said she was on Gaia recently, but that was really helpful to know. Like, if you find it hard to feel compassion for people you've never met, never will meet, then you won't understand what I'm saying. But if you can feel compassion for anybody in the world, people on the other side of the planet going through something you've never experienced, and you feel compassion for them, you've got a little bit of ninth dimension going on there. So I think we're kind of like, we can be all over. Some of us is in ninth, and most of us is in third, and a little bit's in fifth. And it's very interesting. We can be in multi dimensions at the same time. So I hope we haven't created more confusion than answers in this particular episode. But I want to thank you for being with us today. And those of you who love our sci-fi topics are going to be really excited, because next Friday, our topic is aliens among us. I'm so excited. I have something to talk about with this, and Roz does too, because we've had some experiences. So we will see you. We hope you have an absolutely remarkable week. We'll see you next Friday.